Oh my god. It only took like 5 years, but Jesus, the UK is actually really nice now. Oh, this is such nice weather. What do you think, Stan? Stanley? What do you think of the weather? Yeah, I know, I can't think about it either. Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. I'm Caddicarus. The weather is absolutely gorgeous, hence why I'm outside, because why the fuck not? And also, yes, before we continue, this is indeed a two-parter video. This is a top 20 of my favourite PS2 games ever made, so click anywhere on the screen, literally anywhere at all, to go straight to that part, in case I missed out some of your favourite games that I talked about, or of course, they could be mentioned in the honourable mentions later on in this video, or I just either didn't like them, didn't play them, or, you know, I'm not a fucking god. You know, so just please consider that. So yes, just for another reminder, one game per franchise. Yes, I haven't played every fucking game ever made, so please chill out, alright guys? And 3, this is my personal favourite list, not the best games or anything, just my personal favourite list. And the sooner people understand that, the better, because honestly... Number 10 goes to my favourite Jak and Daxter, Jak and Daxter. Yes, I don't like Jak 2 that much, and Jak 3 started getting a bit too serious for my taste for this kind of game, but for Naughty Dog transposing from Crash to another franchise, Jak and Daxter felt like a proper PS2 evolution from the PS1 days. It was a platformer, it was bright, colourful, silly, beautiful to look at, still dark at the same time, it had fast-paced attacks with memorable enemies, and it was massive. It was open. It was so fucking atmospheric. It even had side missions and so much to do with many ways of doing those things. It was a collectathon on PS2 and it was done so damn well. Not necessarily the best collectathon platformer I've ever played in my life, but definitely one of the strongest, especially for the PS2 when this genre was considered to be on the way out. I will admit that the plot of 2 and 3, and the characters for that matter, were a lot stronger, and Daxter was a lot less annoying in future games. Actually, no, he's annoying as fuck anyway. But the elegant simplicity, fun, and satisfying as hell exploration of Jak and Daxter made me prefer this way more over the boring as fuck city driving in Jak 2 with barely anything on the side to do except more boring missions involving more driving or shooting or finding items that barely do anything that are so ridiculously hard to get that it isn't worth it anyway, and when you come to actual stages you do get a little bit of platforming but actually a lot more shooting, and exploration rewards you with literally fucking nothing, meaning that you spend most of your time running forward and shooting and then driving in a boring city when you get back with boring music. I mean, I did love the gun combat and the story of Jak 2, don't get me wrong, it's a decent game in my opinion, but I'll always prefer Jak 1. Sorry about that. Or not, it's just my opinion. You can have yours. I don't care, it's fucking video games, stop taking it so seriously. Talk about a game that made me feel empty and sad pretty much from the beginning to the end. Eco. That is the game. Or Ico, however you want to say it. Yes, a game with this cover. Although I'm a Brit, so we got this cover. But yes, Eco is one of the most ingeniously executed and most beautifully presented games I've ever played. And what's cool is that there are so many juxtapositions about it within its execution to make it one of the strongest arguments for pure video game art I've ever seen, especially for the time it came out. The visuals are huge and breathtaking, yet it's barren, desolate, and lonely. It's based around an escort mission, essentially, but not an annoying one, and one that makes you want to keep your partner safe for the sake of the story and the sake of not being alone here forever as you are sentenced to die. You're slaying shadow demons as you protect your partner, but at the end of the day, you question why you're doing this in the first place, as you were never supposed to be free and just stumbled into a culture with ideologies you'll never understand. The story is remarkably simple, yet it does so much within its own universe it's hard not to be completely fascinated. And the ending is open enough for interpretation, yet clear enough to suggest what's going on exactly, and man, that fucking ending credits theme, you were there. It's one of my favorites ever written. It's also clever with how you had to physically press and hold a button to hold Yorda's hand to further establish the connection between her and the main character and the player and the game, and you feel the weight of her as you continue through the game. And for another juxtaposition, the platforming is slow, but the puzzles highly make up for it as you try desperately to escape this horrific yet beautiful place. And it all feels inclusive, not just random puzzles for the sake of it. You're using the environment to try getting out. It's almost like improvising a prison breakout. Like I said, no one has ever escaped before in this universe, and you aren't meant to be free. It's just so damn smart. The only reason it isn't higher is because it's not too long, and the controls can be slightly stiff sometimes, but hey, that doesn't mean this game isn't fucking great. You should play it now. Number 8 goes to Max Payne 2. I've already made a video going in depth about what made this game awesome. Yes, I have it on Xbox. Shut up, you smarty pants seagull bants. But suffice to say, before the epic gameplay and character development of Max Payne 3, there was the epic gameplay and character development of Max Payne 2, all with an actual better story that was tightly woven, complex, and totally heartbreaking after the insane shit Max dealt with in the first game. It looked better than 1, played smoother, the diving, slow-mo, and shooting was ridiculously fun, and it was oftentimes really difficult and gritty with its subject matter. It's not the most complex game on this list gameplay-wise or even length-wise, but the way every single element of presentation, gameplay, and story mesh together here creates an unforgettable game with so much style and substance despite the gameplay you can explain in a few sentences. It's one of the best sequels ever. Max Payne 2, a game that I can't really say that much more about, but all I can say is give it a go. It's awesome. Number 7 is a very strange one. Not just because it's a remake, but it's a remake of the sequel. What? But you know what? Rayman Revolution deserves to be on the list. This takes everything that made the original Rayman 2 a good platforming game, but improved, changed the layout, and added in challenge absolutely everywhere to make it, in my opinion, the definitive Rayman 2 game, alongside the 5 million other ports. The levels and the design of them are mostly the same, but laid out in a visually updated, beautiful yet dark and totally open way with branching paths, shortcuts to past areas, and barely any loading screens. And to complement that, not much music. But whenever the epic soundtrack from Rayman 2 is used, it's used at very specific moments to make you feel either more pumped for the action or terrified by a sudden encounter. I'm looking at you. You fucking anal bead. Characters also appeared more often and helped out more. There were way more places to explore and secrets to find, and like I said, the challenge was blissfully improved to make both combat and enemy AI harder, platforming more satisfying, and health and checkpoints way more spaced out in order for you to take your health a little bit more seriously. And for the sake of the dark plot, the openness, updated graphics, and atmosphere the game added to the whole experience was welcoming and perfect, especially since characters in the world talked about other areas in the game constantly for hints or lore, and then you could travel there on foot. It all felt interconnected and alive, which, for instance, the PS1 version of the original tried to do, yet ruined it with the constant stage-by-stage basis. Rayman Revolution. It's just a revolution. I can't write scripts. Everyone has said it, so I won't be saying anything new here. Silent Hill 2 is the best pure survival horror the PS2 ever had. I think I was scared more by Silent Hill 3 and preferred the characters and the puzzles in that game. But everything Silent Hill 2 sets out to do is done so perfectly it hurts to think about it. Jordan underneath summed up the entire game and its theme so well that I highly recommend you go and see that video. But suffice to say that Silent Hill 2 is one of the best sequels ever conceived. Not only is it dark as sin and oftentimes terrifying without the need of jump scares, just with a constantly uncomfortable atmosphere and awesome consistency, and the enemy designs and behaviors are some of the most twisted I've ever seen, but the story and how it begins, gets unbelievably unsettling and weird, and then ends is so ingenious, and it's one of the few video game twists that genuinely made you rethink absolutely everything in the game. And if you haven't played it yet, I don't dare spoil it for you. Not to mention this game pushed the PS2 to its limits to improve on the atmosphere that Silent Hill 1 graciously provided, and the fact that it performed and looked much better than the comparative powerhouse of the PS3 and the HD remake shows how much the team knew what they were doing and how to present one of the darkest and most sickening games ever put into a disc that dives into a lot more personal demons instead of just, scary monster, run. I can't add any more. It's Silent Hill 2. Look at it. Aha, yes, it was so hard for me to pick my favorite God of War game between 1 and 2, but despite the improved and refined gameplay of 2, I feel as though the story and set pieces in the original were way more memorable and especially for the time, way more mind-blowing. The story especially is way more straightforward here and well executed for Kratos as a character before he became a big shouty boy as well with barely any plot at all.
By the gods, I'll kill you all!
I remember reading about this game in a PS2 magazine and seeing the first boss in a picture on the article and thinking, firstly, wow, I need this game. And secondly, fuck that noise! But then I played the game many years later, and now I can appreciate just how big of a deal God of War was for high-budget action games. I mean, those visuals are just amazing. It's set in an awesome time period with extremely imaginative enemies and boss encounters, the gameplay is fast, fluent, and customizable on the fly with different weapons, and yeah, it may not be as deep or difficult as Bayonetta or even DMC, but Jesus, it's so fun and bombastic with screaming and guts and smashing everything up. A nice take on Greek legends and unbelievably epic and grand compared to those two games, with one of the best best soundtracks you'll ever hear and some of the most bloody, gory, ridiculous, and satisfying slaughtering ever processed from the PS2. It truly feels like an epic quest from beginning to end, and it reinforces the theme of Kratos constantly getting stronger with the player taking on tougher enemies and bigger, badder, and more unbelievable foes every hour as you garner and improve your equipment, and it's wondrous to experience it and see it all happening in front of you, especially since the story itself ties in with the themes of revenge, and you do want to get stronger and you do want to revenge everything and revenge. Also, look at these battles! Christ! I also have to give the award to Best Easter Egg Ever to the very end of this game, where after smashing 2 statues like 500 times, they eventually crumble and give you a little code, and after deciphering the code, you're given a phone number, where you then hear this if you call it.
Together, we shall conquer the perils that lay before us, and we shall always...
Kratos, dude, they did it! They found our Easter egg!
Who are you?
It's me, David Jaffe. I directed the game.
What game?
You know, up close, you actually look kind of pasty, if you don't mind me saying. It's kind of gross.
All right, that's it!
Claire, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Fucking awesome. Number 4, Ape Escape 3. What has this got to do with the A-Team? Ape Escape is one of the best games on PS1 for sure. Ape Escape 2 was a fantastic sequel, but Ape Escape 3 has so much going for it, it's insane. Literally, it's not sane. I'm very concerned. Look it up and give it a straitjacket. Yes, the platforming was as great as ever, the gadgets for catching monkeys and traversing the landscape were the most fun they'd ever had been, and using the right analog stick to use the gadgets along with moving with the left felt as good as it would ever. But the theme this game went for was TV channels the monkeys were taking over, and that meant there was so much more variety in this game. Variety for the awesome visuals to show exactly what the PS2 could do with light, color, and weather, variety with what time periods and TV themes could present totally different ways monkeys could attack and escape and how many ways you had to jump around the environment, and of course the really subtle visual jokes that you might even have to use monkey radar just to see that one time. And not only were there all the gadgets, but also the super limited time costumes that let you transform and do some ridiculously awesome shit, while the insanely catchy and layered music infected your ears to make you feel totally overpowered just for that second. And there was so much to do here, so much to buy in the shops, with so many monkeys to catch, so many secrets, bosses were brilliant, the cutscenes and characters fucking hilarious. There was even a monkey movie making system within the game, allowing you to make 15-second shorts with any of the monkeys that you catch, with subtitles, sets, and different camera angles. What? And of course, I can't forget to mention the mother of all bonus games, Metal Gear Solid, or Metal Gear Solid, I don't know what it is. Basically, Metal Gear Solid, but with monkeys, and it actually works fucking amazingly for a silly bonus game. I mean, wow. Basically, Ape Escape 3 is one of the best controlling, best looking, best playing, most satisfying, longest and deepest games chock full of content I've ever played on PS2. Get it if you haven't, and play it if you haven't, and do it if you haven't, and you see it if you haven't. Oh yes, we're in the big leagues now, quite literally. Shadow of the Colossus, the game that single-handedly made a worse version of Hyrule Field on paper, but then in execution created one of the grandest, most beautiful, most epic, most empty, lonely, morally scarring, and heart-wrenchingly depressing games ever made. Yes, luckily, this traveling stuff, that's all just world building and suspense until your next encounter just appears. It's not for backtracking, enemies aren't getting in your way, it's just for the sake of pure atmosphere, which, if you ask me, Hyrule Field does not do well with, and it just feels like there's no real reason for it to be here other than to extend your game time to make you roll around everywhere and forget all the enemies out of annoyance. And of course here you explore towards your next kill, the many giant colossi. Which again makes sense, if these guys are so big then they need their own huge gaps between each other or whatever, I'm not making an argument here. In Shadow of the Colossus, all you do from beginning to end is slaughter innocent and gentle giants. That's the game. Sure, they aren't gentle once you upset them, and one of them is just a wanker that deserves to die. But for the most part, you are killing them because you need them dead to save your true love. Talk about an inescapable moral tear. You have no choice but to kill these incredible creatures, and because of how big they are, you not only feel sorry for them, but sorry for the plight of Wanda, who is single-handedly risking everything to fight these things. Look at the size difference here. Why would you do this? Making it quite hard to decide if anything here is justified. Look at what he's doing to save this one girl that you never know anything about. And it just gets more and more depressing as you go. But the impact of your actions and the context of the world aren't the only reasons this game is a masterpiece. The gameplay, when you aren't traveling at least, is simple yet masterful. And can you fucking believe this is on PS2? Look at these things. These must have been the most impressive and ridiculous things ever seen in video games at that time. And every single encounter is a giant boss battle, all with different strategies, all requiring different thought processes, some having platforming challenges on them, some requiring aggression, some just need climbing onto and holding on for dear life, which the stamina meter and holding of the grab button on the controller makes you feel like you're being flung around as you cling for dear life. For such simple concepts, it's amazing how Shadow OTC manages to create such a deep and enriching experience with its plot and the context of your actions. And despite barely any actual actions to perform within the game itself, the way you connect with the world and the beast as a player with such a limited moveset hasn't been replicated since, if you ask me. It feels so real and so awful. And that music, my god! Just play it. But don't come back to me all sad and feeling sorry for yourself, alright? Number 2 goes to one of the best sequels ever made, or at least one of the smartest sequels ever made. Jesus, the PS2 really loved its sequels, didn't it? Metal Gear Solid 2, oh yes, yes, yes. Now my opinions on the Metal Gear Solid games fluctuate all the damn time, but I will just say that gameplay-wise, MGS3 is certainly the best one. It's just awesome. Well, the versions with a third-person camera at least. I don't think the game is anywhere near as playable in its original state. But for carrying on gameplay that was established in 1 and jacking it up to 11, increasing the stakes, deepening the plot, breaking the fourth wall in ways you can never imagine just because of who the main character is, and having the game itself play you, keep secrets, lie to you, and piss you off just as much as the gameplay's Raiden, entirely Kojima's intention by the way, Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the most thought-provoking, mind-blowing, and ingenious games I've ever played. Not just from how much it does differently with the PS2's power, both presentation-wise and gameplay-wise, to make it an infinitely more intense and crazier version of MGS1's stealth mechanics, but the plot, man, it throws so many more curveballs and revelations that I can count. And like I said, everything here is a reflection on real life in some way or another. It's a great game with great gameplay and great characters, but also it's a warning in itself, a warning about trust into the digital age, a warning about if you can actually trust anyone at all, much like the creator of the game itself, a warning about how you shouldn't always expect sequels of things to give you everything you expect just because of the redundancy of the concept from a base level. This isn't a theory discussion channel at all, but if it were, I could go on for over half an hour just on MGS2 and how layered and clever it is and how the player is just as much a part of what's going on as the characters in the game, but I won't fucking bother. Instead, I'll just say the gameplay is epic, the bosses are epic, the music is epic, the themes it explores everywhere from child soldiers to incest are gross to witness, but still epic with how it's included into the plot. The intro, the middle, the ending, the twist that's on the last fifth of the game that literally made me nearly stop playing, I was so scared, the sad moments that actually made me bawl, it's just epic. It does everything from a gameplay standpoint you expect to see from a sequel to MGS1, but then with everything else it begins to peel back and seemingly get worse as you begin to suspect it's just a repeat of what's already happened. But as you play with a character that no one fucking likes from the bat, so you're already put off, then it explains everything, makes you realize why the game doesn't let you play as who you fucking expected, flips the table and changes your entire outlook on life, video game culture, and the game you've just been playing, along with delivering a tight, satisfying, and challenging stealth game way deeper than before with intelligent AI, multiple heights and levels to explore, more moves to pull off, and more weapons and ways to stealth around via hiding and even hiding enemies that you knock out. In fact, you can make an entire video discussing simple gameplay differences from MGS1, let alone discuss the story stuff, but hey, I've gone on long enough. So, what's my favourite PS2 game ever made? Oh yeah, I guess I should put some honourable mentions. I had to write them down here because I couldn't remember them. There's quite a lot of them, so honourable mentions in no particular order. Got Kingdom Hearts, great game. Crash Twinsanity, Gran Turismo 4, Parappa the Rapper 2, Ratchet & Clank 3, Wipeout Fusion, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Fatal Frame 2, because I know where 2, lots of 2s. Lots of poo, Midnight Club 3, Soul Calibur 2, Burnout Revenge, Lego Star Wars. Yes, I know Battlefront 2 is also Star Wars, but I'm counting that under Lego myself. And Time Splitters 2. Yeah, they were all great games, but I just couldn't bring myself to fit them all into my top 20. I guess if the list was bigger, it would be a little bit easier, but there you go. So, on to number 1. Okay, it's a bit of a cheat. I was actually planning on making a top 10 favourite GameCube games video a while ago, and this would have easily taken number 1. And yeah, it was a GameCube exclusive, but because of how good it was, it then got a PS2 release. Resident Evil 4. Not really in a residence, but evil. Oh, so evil. The game that risked everything both for newcomers to Resident Evil and the classic fans. The game that originally opted for traditional survival horror, yet traded it for tense and horrifying third-person gameplay to attempt to please everyone. And you know what's amazing? It did. It pleased everyone, and how often does that happen, especially with dialogue like this?
You've sent my right hand to dispose of you. your right hand comes off?
I will never know, but one thing I do know is that Resident Evil 4 deserves the praise it got in my opinion. It's an incredible game. I was going to put MGS2 above this, but to be honest, it is really damn heavy and hard to get into, especially if it's your first MGS game. Lots of it won't mean anything without the other games that you play, but here, as a genuine video game overall, for one to just sit down and start and love, you're given backstory, you're given your mission, hilariously enough, to rescue the president's daughter, and from that moment on, you're in the game and forced to figure out everything from scratch without needing to play any other game in the series, and without the extensive cutscenes that put people off MGS in the first place. It's mostly all expressed through the tight, consistent, and suspenseful gameplay. The game doesn't hold your hand, doesn't hold back, and succeeds in spooking you with its unique and grotesque disease-raw Spanish locations, and new and improved, overly aggressive and terrifying infected enemies that you're forced to run away from and fight with barely any bullets within the first few minutes of playtime in one of the best intro sequences ever to set the mood perfectly before the title screen even shows up. Think about it for a second. This is arguably primarily an action game, yet with some of the enemy designs and behaviors, the soundtrack, the brilliantly designed and dingy environments, the lack of healing items and ammo for your vast array of guns making every single bullet count, it can actually be just as tense and just as freaky as previous entries, but on a different scale with more unique approaches to both the third-person perspective that keeps you always face-to-face in front of the horror, and also from its locations and creepy cult undertones not yet seen in Resident Evil games up to that point. It's simply a fantastic game, seriously, and it's so well designed that with the correct mods or hacks, you can actually play the game with the classic fixed camera perspective, and you'll be surprised to know the design of every level caters to how Resident Evil used to be. You can play the entire game either way. That's the level of detail here. The designers built this game with all of the original ones in total mind. And there are some unforgettable moments in this game, like discovering the underground lab and meeting the regenerators for the first time, the intro sequence with Dr. Salvador, the chainsaw man, and getting decapitated in seconds from being reckless, landing your first headshot and watching the thick gooey muck explode all over the scenery, fighting the giant with the dog you choose to save earlier on in the game coming to help you, hiding Ashley, the president's daughter, in dust bins as you fight for your life against mutated monstrosities, dealing with the hilarious merchant and upgrading your stuff.
Got something that might interest you.
Managing your inventory in an awesomely stylized and practical briefcase system, getting everything just right, even the bonus content like the awesome combo-racking mercenaries mode after beating the game. This game is packed with content, variety, ways to play, new game modes, secrets, weapon upgrades, beautiful environments drenched in an atmosphere that you can practically smell it's so detailed. Dark corridors and occult cathedrals, aggressive enemies constantly changing appearance and behaviors to the point of wielding weapons in dirty, dank trenches later on, people mutating behind, left, right, front, and center, and some of the funniest and most self-aware Easter eggs and corny dialogue ever put into a Resident Evil game.
Oh, you pervert!
If you ask me, it is as good as everyone says it is, and it hasn't aged a single bit if you ask me. I don't think it ever will, honestly. It's a classic for the ages. Resident Evil 4. And there you have it, everyone, my personal top 10 favourite PS2 games of all time, or if you're one of those people that watched all of the parts of this series, my top personal 20 favourite PS2 games of all time. So thank you so much for watching, and of course, I'm only one person out of 7 billion on this planet, so please share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. If you agreed with me, disagreed with me, what you would put in your top 20 list. I'd love to read through them because, like I said, the PS2 had a plague of amazing games on it, so I must have missed out quite a lot of gems. And just a reminder for everybody out there that even though you can have the system that sells the most amount of units in like 16 years, and you could have the most popular video game console of all time, and you could have some of the greatest games on it, you can still have Dalmatians 3 on it. There's always flaws in something, isn't it? Nothing's ever perfect. Oh, hey, look. You managed to find me in my tree den. Only secret things happen in the tree den. Do you know what kind of secret things happen in the tree den? I won't tell you because it's a secret. Okay, I will tell you. The Tree Den is actually the place where I graciously thank the sponsors for today's video, Audible.com. Because I'm not much of a reader at all, but definitely am a listener, which is a good thing because Audible are the world's leading provider of audiobooks in the world with over 250,000 titles to choose from. 250,000 audiobooks. I can't even count that high, man. And I can offer you all today a sign-up link at audible.com/caddy, in which you can grab a 30-day free trial and any choice of any book on the site for you to use whenever you want at all, if you choose to continue the service after the trial or even cancel in the middle of it. If you want a good starting point, well, my recommendation would easily be A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, in light of the new season on HBO being on and it being amazing. And if you do choose to sign up, you're not only going to grab an awesome audiobook of your choice, but also support this channel directly in its 3 video per week schedule when the internet lets me, at least. So thank you so much for listening, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for joining me in my tree den. And if it's your birthday or watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful. Thanks, dog.
You ruined my take.
Yeah.